In my talk today, I would like to share a few lessons that I have learned and just share something purely from my heart. Let me take you back to my journey about 10 years ago. My wife Catherine was visiting India for the first time. And there we were at Delhi railway station. Some of you may be familiar with the railway systems in India. If you are not, I'll be happy to share an experience. So here we were sitting on platform number 14. And every few steps, we had tracks and platform, tracks and platform. On platform number 8, a train had just pulled in. The journey of the train begins from New Delhi. And here we were just having our own time, watching all the people who were going to take the journey to their destination. And all of a sudden I heard Catherine say, "Hey, move, move." I said, "What's the big deal? There's plenty of space." "No, move away from my line of sight." And I looked at my wife. She was looking right across the tracks onto the train that had just arrived. And I said, "What's the big deal?" I said, "Well, look at the way people are getting into the coaches." I said, "What's the big deal?" Well, we are trying to get into the coaches even when the door is not open. Apparently, everybody had found a way to go into the coach through the windows. You want a window seat? Here, jump into one of the windows. And after the train was full, they opened the doors and everybody was getting in. So that is the rural train service in India. When our train arrived, we started on our journey and we had a great time with families who were traveling with us. Fellow Toastmasters, as I thought about my journey that day, I realized each one of us has our own journey. Each one of us has a learning to do. But apart from our journey, we also have lessons to learn and something that we can share with each other. Today, I would like to share 4 important facts of my life that has helped me through my journey. And I hope it does to yours. And someday, hope I get a chance to talk to you about your journey. Let me start with the first lesson that I have believed has helped me. It is the flaws. In case you haven't noticed, I do not have a Norwegian accent, even though I have cool Norwegian looks. Okay, I do not have cool Norwegian looks. Neither did I grow up in Norway. I grew up in India with my mother tongue being Hindi, which means I did not speak English until I was in the 7th grade. Every time I communicated with my co-students or teachers or the administration staff, I would actually listen to your voice in English, put into my brain, translate that into Hindi, process my thoughts into Hindi, translate my response back into English, and then I would speak. Obviously, I had a lot of issues with my usage. You see, the issue I always thought was that I did not know enough of the language. And that always bothered me. Even when I came to US, it was always that hurdle. And I always thought English is my flaw. I cannot speak this language, or my accent is so different. Only to realize nobody cared how I spoke. Everybody sort of understood. So I realized there is a difference between speaking in a language versus communicating in a language. Fellow Toastmasters, all of you are in your workplace or in your Toastmasters clubs, you deal with this on a regular basis. You focus more on communication, the message, more than anything else. I'd like to share my favorite story, Tale of Two Parts, with you. Long time ago, in the remote village of a country, lived a hermit, a saint to be more precise. And to help him with his daily routines, he had a helper, another saint. The job of the saint was to go from the top of the hill down to the river, which was at the bottom of the hill, fetch water, and bring it back to the house. So every day, what he would do is he'll take a stick, put it on his shoulders. At the end of the sticks were two ropes, and there were two parts at the bottom of those ropes. He will carry his empty vessels from the top of the hill down to the river, fill them with water, go back to the hill, and that is how the needs of water was met. One day, the two parts decided to observe and talk to him. And in fact, he noticed that one part was perfect. You're filled with 5 gallons of water, you are guaranteed you will get 5 gallons of water from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill. The other part had holes. If you filled 5 gallons at the bottom of the hill, by the time you went back up, you'd probably get a gallon of water. Such was the dilemma that one day the part with holes asked this saint, "Why do you employ me in this service? Why do you use me to fetch water when I can't even get you half the quantity?" To which the saint, who was the water bearer, told the part with imperfection that, "I know you have flaw. I know you leak water. So here is what I did. I planted the seeds along the way, and every time I carried you, you watered those seeds that turned into plants and they produced flowers. Those flowers adorned the house in which my master lives. And hence, I was able to even use your service for something else." Fellow Toastmasters, do you have a flaw of your own? I bet you do. If not, then you probably know someone else who has a flaw. And it is not about really having that flaw or the weakness. It's about knowing your strengths. In this particular case, the part with imperfect holes, the strength was to water the plant. The other part, the strength, was to carry the water and deliver it. Together, they were serving many needs of this family. So what I would say is that recognize the true strength you have. In this journey, that is the strength that helps us overcome all the hurdles that we have in life, overcome our initial hurdles that is inside our hearts, and lead a successful journey. When we join Toastmasters, and many of you have experienced this, we all join to improve one quality or something, or just have a great time. But in the end, we all begin to recognize our strength. Remember, the very first question in that evaluation is, you excel that? Well, that is where somebody is trying to provide you with the knowledge of the strength that they have observed. So recognize that and let those flaws be turned into your strength. Today, when I go and speak with my accent, people remember me because of my accent. So why should I change all my speaking style or everything that I have? I have begun to recognize that people know me, love me, or adore me, or they don't like me or do anything else because of the deeds I do, because of the character, and it is not because of my language. So what has helped me recognizing my flaws is to focus on my strength and let me accept my flaws. I've come across another story, and actually it is just information that I came across on the internet. In Japan, when a pot comes out of the kiln, those pots which have cracks in them, they get a very special treatment. Those cracks are filled with gold because they have the true value and it has a true appreciation. They get that special treatment. I came across another knowledge that my wife shared about quilts, Amish quilts. Those quilts are handmade, beautifully done, but all of them have a flaw, a very subtle flaw. I have been told that Amish women, when they weave the quilt, to them, God is the only perfect person, and everything else has a flaw. Those quilts have a flaw. It is very difficult to find them from your naked eye. However, it is beautiful. Each one of us has that beauty, and I hope you never have to worry about your flaws. I have moved on, and I love my environment. Close to the principle of flaw comes forgiveness, and that is what I want to share with you as my second lesson that I have learned. The first time I had to think about forgiveness was actually in the class where we just read a story. Yeah, forgiveness is good. But it was in my third grade that I had an incident which really shook me up. Like kids, we were all having fun. We had one kid that brought this beautiful set of crayons, beautiful colors. We all were so jealous of him. I was especially very jealous of not having the same set of crayons. So during lunchtime, when everybody was out, I went to his desk, picked out his packet of crayons, and hid them in my desk. I thought it was just going to be fun. We are going to tease him and return it eventually. Well, things didn't quite happen that way. The teacher came up for the class after the recess, and that kid started crying because that was his favorite set of crayons, newly bought, and all of a sudden it had been displaced. So a search was conducted, and I was caught. I still thought that was fun. I will be asked to stay outside the class, which I always love to do. But instead of really asking me to stand outside the class, I was sent to Mr. Singh. Now, in my days, I was a kid. Mr. Singh was a name that really shook you. He was a tall guy, heavily built, and he was known to be a terror for kids. So here I was standing in front of Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh obviously was not in a good mood today. So he picked me up, literally by the collar of my shirt, and even before I could answer to any of his questions, I felt something burning on my left cheek. He had used his right hand to strike me right across the face. A feeling of anger rushed through my body, and I could feel my body become very warm. I was hurt, I was angry, and very helpless. Then, for some reason, I fell down. He picked me up again with his right hand, and there was another hand that went across. There were a few more slaps, and then I was let go. The day got over, but the hurt never went away. Even after 30 years, when I was in the United States, I was leading a life, happy, very content, and yet there was something missing. One day, I was teaching my daughter and asking her about her life, or I should say her experience in the class, and she talked about how there was one kid who was so inconsolable for something that had happened at home. And they all got together and they hugged each other and they talked about what is missing in their life. At that moment, I also realized that there was something missing in my life. That hurt that I had carried for over 30 years, it was still with me. In search of my answers, I finally figured that what I have been missing is forgiveness. So one day I said, Mr. Singh, I forgive you. And I really did. I don't think Mr. Singh even realized why he was doing that when he was terrorizing kids or even giving me that harsh punishment. Mr. Singh probably doesn't even remember who Ravi Rai is. For him, that kid is gone. For me, that hurt remains. All those angers that built in and the way I react because of the anger, that stayed with me. So I found a way to say, Mr. Singh, I forgive you. And with that, my pain dissipated. I realized people do hurt you, not knowing that they are hurting you. And sometimes simply getting up and saying, I am sorry, and moving on, seeking forgiveness and giving forgiveness actually helps. That forgiveness lesson helped me in a job situation that actually I had 10 years ago when I was applying for a higher position, which was directly under my supervisor. And on the day when I had my one-on-one with him, I mentioned that I had applied, and he said, yes, I have received your application. He paused, and then he said, Ravi, I'm surprised that you haven't applied for this job, because in my opinion, you are not fit to even do this job. Ooh, that was like a dagger in the middle of my heart. How can you say that? A person who's trying to be learning from you, and here you are giving him a dashing result that you are not fit to be for that position. Well, the thing is, I could either take it personally, or as Don Miguel will say in his 4 agreements, that don't take it personally. And I've struggled with that. But on that day, I realized my supervisor was not really putting me down. The words he used were probably bad. So I used the principle of forgiveness to find the real reason. So once I forgave my supervisor, I then understood the reason behind his reaction. He was having a tough time. His mom was on deathbed, and he was unable to really cope up with the changes that was happening. But his emotions were coming out on anybody who was working at the office. I felt it was very appropriate to forgive. And down the road, we became very good friends. In fact, he mentored me for many other leadership lessons. Had I kept the hurt that he gave me for giving me the advice of, or the way he reacted to my applying for that higher position job, I would have probably never seen the good side and the helping nature that he had. Forgiveness helped me overcome that. This past week, actually, I had a situation where I was working with another individual in my team who actually blurted out saying that nothing has happened in the past 9 months. And I took it to heart. I said, I have been here only 9 months. Are you saying that I have not produced any results in the last 9 months? What I learned is this person had been frustrated with many efforts that he wanted to do. He had great ideas, but for the past 10 years, all those efforts had been washed away, ignored, and that is what his hurt was. If I took it to heart, I'll probably not see me working with him for the next 10 years. On the other hand, I had to step back, pause, use the lesson of forgiveness to overcome that first few words that hurt me. Instead, I employed the technique of forgiveness to understand the real reason and find a way to work with him. Working with other individuals is all about relationship. Fellow Toastmasters, that's my third lesson that I have learned and I want to share with you. Nurture your relationships. Yes, even when people who are close to you may not like you or may not express their likeness for you, yet you have to love them and nurture the relationship. Many of you know my wife, Catherine, who I met in Toastmasters and who was actually the past district director, or who is a past district director. Catherine and I met in Toastmasters. And after knowing each other, actually she moved to Minnesota because she was trying to look for a new place. And she came to Toastmasters to make new friends. And we were desperate to have members. No, I'm not suggesting marry everyone who comes into your club to make them a member of your club. But instead, I found a person who I thought was the person in my life. We were dating, and at one point, I finally got enough courage. Yes, I am very afraid of hearing no. So I mustered enough courage, and I decided to write a letter. Sat down in front of a computer. Oh, I know, now some of you are thinking, man, He is using a computer to send a proposal. Yeah, I did. Sorry. But that is not how you want to propose all men who are single in this company today. I wrote to her saying that in the last 10 days, we have had very hot weather. The summer has been brutal. Our hibiscus plant that has been out in the yard has seen some really tough days. Yet it survived. It survived because we gave it the proper treatment. We fertilized it, we watered it, we took care of it. Our relationship is like that hibiscus tree. I want our relationship to grow. I want us to nurture our relationship by putting in the right amount of fertilizer, right amount of water, and seed grow. Catherine, would you marry me? And I send the email. For the next 5 minutes, I frantically hit refresh key on my email screen to see what kind of response I will get. The heart was beating faster. There was an email reply, and it had only one word, yes. That's how Catherine and I got married. Fellow Toastmasters, I have loved our relationship grow with all of you in Toastmasters, as well as friends that we have made outside of Toastmasters. It's not just about proposing getting married. Each relationship takes work, whether it is your husband, your wife, your partner, your friend, your business, or people at work. Every relationship takes work. It needs that right amount of fertilizer of love, care, and forgiveness. Recognizing what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes you have to work at it. If there is a problem, I always encourage you to employ the techniques of candid conversation. Talk to each other, express how you feel, ask the other person to express their feeling. Let the nurturing grow. And that is how you keep building the relationship. I have felt that every year when I take good care of the plant, I get flowers. And the years when I really don't care about the plant survives, but there are no flowers. So the results are always there if we nurture them. I also want to address sometimes forgiving and nurturing your relationship may not always be enough. Now, some of you may ask, Ravi, what about the weeds that may grow? What about the toxicity that might bring by too much fertilizer, or sometimes when there is external ingredients that comes in? Fellow Toastmasters, in those cases, what I would say is recognize what is your hibiscus. Pull out the weeds, throw them away. If there is toxic material in your soil, wash them away. You don't have to make life a compromise. The nurturing of relationship doesn't mean that you have to let those weeds grow along with those hibiscus trees. It is that pure sense of love, the pure sense of caring that grows in your relationship. That is the true essence, and that is what makes you the person you are. So get rid of all the external distractions. Get rid of all the things that is coming your way. Define your relationships. Surround yourself with people with whom you can have a wonderful life in your marriage or outside of your marriage, or in any relationship you are part of. Apart from relationship, I would like to talk about the journey itself. In this journey, we all have a destination. When you get on a plane, you cannot open the door and say, oh, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to fly to my destination. Well, first of all, the airtight door will not let you open the door. But more importantly, that is not what you got on the flight for. On a train, if you get off at one of the stops, you'll probably have a tough time reaching your destination because you'll have to make new arrangements and so many other things. My lesson about completing your journey is about something else. And I want to share a story that I came across. about an Olympic athlete. His name is Derek Raymond. In the year 1992, in the 1992 Olympics, he was part of the 400-meter race, and he was the favorite to win. At the 300-meter mark, he had a hamstring and he started limping. Forget about the first place. There was no way he could really continue running, beat his opponent, and win the race or qualify. He had two options: get off the track, stop being humiliated, or continue limping forward. Every step he took, it became very difficult for him to even get up and continue walking. At that moment, his father ran to his aid. He took his son, took his one arm, put it across his shoulder, and helped the son limp towards the finish line. Just a meter before the finish line, he let the son go, and Derek finished the line. Looking at him, the spectators were so overwhelmed, everybody stood up and they applauded. Fellow Toastmasters, do you feel sometimes that you have missed that mark? The deadline that you were working on just didn't happen? How would you even think about completing a project when there are so many factors? The story of Derek Raymond told me that sometimes our destination is not about that coming first in a race. It's not about being the best. It's about all the spectators that are sitting on the stand who are going to applaud you. It's about people who really care about you and they are willing to applaud you for finishing the race, not for coming in first. To me, Derek's biggest reward that day was those people who showed their love. They stood and applauded him for finishing the race. I have taken that to heart. Whenever I do a project, I always think about the journey with the end in sight. How will the end look like? Will it be simply, oh man, this is not going to work, this sucks, and get out of the way? Or find a way to complete the journey? One of my favorite poems when I was growing up is The Journey of Raindrop by Haryad, an Indian poet. This is a Hindi poem, but I would like to translate that to you and see if you can find your own voice in this one. The moment a raindrop left the comfort of the clouds, she immediately started to regret. Lord, did I start my journey and make a big mistake? I don't know what is going to happen to my life. What is in my fate? Will I be flying and fall into dirt, become invisible to everyone, lose my identity? Or will I fall into a rose petal and become part of the beauty of that flower? Will I really survive with the heat or the cold of this life? Or will I even be able to go someplace where I will be safe and maybe I'll find my journey, maybe I'll find my happiness? Well, the winds of time took that raindrop and carried it to the sea. And as an oyster pearl was about to close, she fell into the oyster and became an oyster pearl. Some say oyster pearls are the purest and the best pearls one can ever have. I have felt that each person that I have come across is a pearl, is a very precious person. And everyone has a journey. Do you feel that nervousness, the jitters, the same way you had when you gave your icebreaker speech? You literally had to push yourself to that lectern and give that talk. Somebody had to work with you, encourage you, persuade you, threaten you, twist your arms, and sometimes simply brought you to the lectern and speak. In the projects, in a new environment, meeting new people, we all have that jitters. And I believe that journey of a raindrop has a very special meaning. We will never know what kind of skills we are going to have discover that we had already. and Journey of a Raindrop is that message for you, is that everybody has that pearl, has that quality inside of you, which is itching to get out. And you have to take that journey to bring it out of you. Don't let any journey go by. Find your voice, look into it, and you'll find plenty of reasons to continue with your journey and complete it. In my year as district director, which was actually a culmination of many years, I came across many hurdles. Were they discouraging? Absolutely. Did I feel like quitting? Absolutely. But there was something inside of me that said, Ravi, for every person who is wishing you unwell, there are 10 people who are wishing you to be a successful person. For every person who defines a success a certain way, there are 10 people who are going to define what you did, your efforts. That is what I learned in my journey. Fellow Toastmasters, don't let those distractions, those discouragements, and those words that hurt you stop you from doing that good work that you wanted to do. Complete that journey, complete that task, complete what you stood for. That is the true essence of your journey. I hope that is going to be with you for some time. Once again, I would like to share the 4 lessons that I have learned in my journey. Always accept the flaws and recognize your strengths. Sometimes you can convert your flaws into the strengths. When things become very tough, see if forgiveness can be your method to overcome that hurt, overcome those barriers that is stopping you. You'll come across people. Sometimes you have to work really hard, but nurturing the relationship is so important for all of us. So I hope you nurture your relationship with everybody around you. And always, always complete the journey of tasks that you are always taking on. From my heart to you, it has always been a pleasure and a privilege to speak with you and connect with you. Many of you who have come into my life in some form or the other, you have given me your love, respect, and have been my co-passenger in this journey of life. The passenger train system in India still exists. People still go through the windows to take their seats. But the best window seat that I have seen is when I spent it with the people I love and people I care, and share a cup of tea or a cup of moment of our journey, of our experiences with each other. Hope I was able to share some of my experiences with you. And I wish you the best in your journey, in your life. Until we meet again, after the social distancing, goodbye and namaste. Mr. Toastmaster.